This year's Monaco Grand Prix was an absolute roller coaster, as the rain turned a usually predictable race into a chaotic mess. And while we still didn't see many on-track overtakes, Ferrari's strategy drama more than made up for it. So, from Leclerc's widening woes to Chico's redemption arc, here's everything that went down at Monaco over the weekend. First up, Monaco's wild weather threw Ferrari off its game. It's been a strange season so far for Ferrari. On one hand, they finally got a car that's able to challenge for the championship. On the other hand, though, their strategic calls have kinda lost them a ton of points this season already, as they failed to capitalize on multiple pole positions. And while Charles Leclerc's been driving that car to its limit in quali, we somehow don't see that pace during the actual race. Plus, Sainz hasn't had the best of luck with getting to grips with a new car either, as he's failed to replicate the Monegasque's form since the start of the season. So heading into Monaco, this was their big chance to show why they deserve to be at the top and not Red Bull. The story was essentially writing itself, especially with Leclerc securing an empathetic pole position. Also, if there's anything we know about Monaco, it's that pole usually comes prepackaged with a guaranteed race win. Of course, knowing the 24-year-old's luck around his home Grand Prix, nothing's quite guaranteed, but if there was any year for him to finally finish and win the Monte Carlo, this would have been it. However, by the time we got to the race, dark clouds had enveloped the track, and rain was already wreaking havoc. On top of that, the FIA didn't have the best of days either, as they delayed the race multiple times for some reason. Like, seriously, it's kinda baffling to see a race not starting in anticipation of upcoming weather, when you've got pit stop crews that can change tires in seconds, and a ton of safety stoppages in place. So, despite Monaco's history of being dull, we were at least in for a battle of the wits in terms of strategy. Next, Leclerc just can't catch a break at the Scuderia. Now, some rain shouldn't really matter as long as you've covered the other team's strategy. Ferrari, though, had a disaster of a day as they made multiple bad pit stop calls that eventually cost them the race. The Italian team called Leclerc in for interns on lap 18, despite most drivers preferring to stay out. In fact, Sainz even disobeyed team orders and decided to stay out and wait for the track to dry up more. For the Monegasque, however, things really went downhill when he was called in for a stop just 3 laps later. Oh, and guess what? The team didn't even want him to box, and the radio message was super delayed. So by the time they told him to stay out, he'd already made his way to the pit lane. This resulted in a really slow double stack with Leclerc losing precious seconds and track position to an undercutting Perez. Obviously, track position is a king at Monaco, so the 24-year-old's race was kinda done as soon as he emerged in P4. Of course, he wasn't happy about that at all. As a matter of fact, things even got a bit intense between Leclerc and the Ferrari crew, as he essentially blamed them for squandering this chance. Speaking on the team radio after the race, he said that they've got no chance of challenging for the championship if they continue to make these mistakes. Now, while he may have gotten some stick from people on social media for his comments against the team, he still got a point. Plus, it's not like this is a new Ferrari problem, as we've seen this happen time and time again with other drivers too, like Vettel during his title fight season. Also, Sainz kinda proved Leclerc's point, as he had much better luck after defying his team. The Spanish driver spent the entire race staring down Chico's gearbox and managed a decent P2 finish. And now Red Bull capitalizes on Ferrari's mistakes. Red Bull's always ready to pounce on its opponent's mistakes. So, when Ferrari's race imploded after the pit stop drama, they were ready to take a track position. To everyone's surprise, however, it wasn't actually Max Verstappen who took the lead, as the reigning champion had a similar strategy to Leclerc. Instead, it was Sergio Perez with the undercut, who managed to get the better of everyone else on the grid with an incredibly rapid outlap. The Mexican, who had been robbed of a race win at Catalunya due to team orders, showed everyone that he was too in this title fight alongside Leclerc and Verstappen. His win also shut down the number 2 Red Bull driver talks, as he got the preferential treatment for his pit stops, and now he's only a few points behind his teammate in the driver's standings. The reigning champion, despite coming in P3, also had a decent enough race, as he still managed to extend his lead over Leclerc. After Monaco, however, the little race has been blown wide open, and now it's turned into a 3-way battle instead. Plus, with unpredictable Baku on the horizon, there's every chance that we see a new championship leader coming out of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Up next, Ferrari's failed pit strategy wasn't the only hindrance for Leclerc. Now, it's easy to look at the Monaco GP as a whole and point towards Leclerc's botched pit stop for everything that went down. However, after the race, eagle-eyed viewers spotted something much more nefarious. Apparently, the Monegasque didn't lose track of position to the Red Bulls in the pits at all. Instead, it was Alex Albon who kinda destroyed his whole race. The Williams driver was obviously running at the back of the grid, minding his own business. But when it was time for Leclerc to lap him, the Thai driver simply refused to get out of the way. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at the footage, it's actually kinda painful to watch. Not only did Albon not let the Ferrari driver pass him, but he also ignored at least a dozen blue flag screens and 3 proper flags. Despite these offenses, though, he didn't get any penalty or even a reprimand. Oh, and just in case you were wondering, Leclerc was over 6 seconds ahead of Verstappen when he reached the Williams driver. But by the time Albon let him through, Max was already right behind the Monegasque. Besides, this didn't just happen with Charles, as Sainz also found himself getting bogged down behind the other Williams driver, Nicholas Latifi. In fact, the situation was so dire that it kind of sparked conspiracy theories, especially with Albon's link to Red Red Bull. And now Hamilton's woes continue at Monaco. Lewis Hamilton's kinda lost his mojo since the start of this season, as his teammates outpaced him in pretty much every race, and it's not a good look, since this is George Russell's first season with Mercedes. Plus, despite showing signs of recovery at Catalunya after an incredible drive, the 7-time world champion was still behind Russell, who scored a podium. So coming into the weekend, Hamilton had something to prove, and Monaco's the perfect proving ground for experienced drivers. However, what was poised to be a shot at redemption turned into a frustrating weekend for Lewis, as he struggled to overtake Fernando Alonso for the entirety of the race. He found himself way down in 8th place behind the Alpine, and no strategy call was enough to switch that order around. On top of that, he even got pressured from behind by his old teammate Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo. Oh, and guess what? His teammate continued his flawless run of top 5 finishes in every single race this season, widening the gap between the two Mercedes drivers even further. Now, obviously, Hamilton ran into a lot of bad luck during the race, especially with his track position. Like, we all know how difficult it is to pass Alonso on any given day, and if you're in Monaco, you can pretty much kiss that overtake goodbye. With that said, this bad run of form paired with a young teammate who continues to outshine him won't do the 7-time champion's confidence any favors. So Baku's probably a make or break race for him, as people would seriously start to ask questions if he fails to perform here. Finally, fans want Monaco to lead the F1 race calendar. Monaco's obviously one of the most prestigious races in motorsport, let alone F1. It's got massive history and legacy, and many people say that this is the track where legends are made. With these modern F1 cars, however, it seems like the street circuit's life may have come to an end. You see, the cars are just too big now for anyone to overtake on these narrow, widening roads. Plus, the lack of straights with DRS doesn't help its case either. Also, this year's race kinda proved these points, as we barely got any on track to overtake. In fact, the only reason why it was even enjoyable was because of the rain, which has nothing to do with the circuit itself. As a result, many fans have aired their frustrations online and have asked the F1 management to either alter the track's layout or find better solutions. Of course, it's easier said than done, since Monaco's as much of a party and spectacle as it is a racetrack, and Formula 1 as a sport absolutely thrives on that stuff. That's a wrap for this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.